Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm Sarah Ann Smith. I'm a mom, a wife, a textile artist, and for this conversation, I put on my former Foreign Service officer and consular officer hat. When we left the Foreign Service a little over 14 years ago, I was working in the Advisory Opinions Office of the Visa Office. When our older son turned 14, 4 years ago, he wanted to work. Now we live currently in Hope, Maine, which is population 1,313. No jobs in Hope other than picking blueberries in August. But our local center, the way DC is the center for the DC metro area, Camden, Maine is the hub for our little area. It has a year-round population of about 6,000, goes up to maybe double that in summer with all the summer vacationers. We have quite a number of B&Bs, hotels, and restaurants in town. Joshua went everywhere applying for jobs. He finally was offered a job and was quite lucky at the age of 14 to get one at Camden Deli. He averaged about 24 hours a week of work. He did so well that the owner invited him to stay on in fall, coming in a couple afternoons a week after school to help with food prep, and he had a guaranteed job the following summer. What we didn't know at the time is that by the following summer, the economy had tanked. And for the first time, Tom, the owner of the deli, had hired foreign workers to come in. Getting a teenager out of bed in the morning is difficult at the best of times. But Joshua got himself up, got on his bike, and rode into town. We lived closer then. And would be at work at 6:30 in the morning, regularly. He was supposed to be working until 11 or 12 o'clock every day. But frequently, Tom would tell him around 8 or 8:30, okay, you're done for the day, you can go home now. Joshua would hang out in town and walk by the deli later in the morning and see that there were European girls working behind the counter, making sandwiches, doing food prep, getting full-time shifts and hours while he was left with no work. He got maybe 6 to 8 hours a week average that summer, even though he had been and continued to be a reliable employee. Fed up with the way he had been treated at the deli, the following summer in 2010, he applied all around town again, and once again was lucky to land a job at Bayview Lobster. The first week, he had 24 hours of work. He was a dishwasher. In Maine, we have a tiered system of employment for young kids. They can work some jobs at a certain age. He was not yet old enough to wait tables, serve wine, or take money. So all he could do was wash dishes. He had 24 hours that first week in the kitchen. The second week, he only had 6 to 8 hours, and there was a European kid in the kitchen washing dishes with him. Then, the following week, he wasn't on the schedule at all. He went to the manager repeatedly and said, please, I really want to work. I'd like more hours. The answer he got, there's a contract. We have to hire these workers. We have to give the hours to them. Sorry, kid. That was the last week that Joshua had hours. He tried and tried and tried, and nothing else for the rest of summer. Kids were sitting around town on the sidewalk. Joshua was playing his guitar on Main Street for change. All of them were complaining, I can't get a job. I hate this place. There's nothing for me here. Now, not all of the businesses hired the foreign workers. The little mom and pop grocery in town, a couple of the sandwich shops, they hired American kids. And guess who got my business and still has it? They were committed to supporting our community and our children. Joshua was frustrated, and because of my visa background, I was upset. It never occurred to me at the time that they could be using the J visa program because that was for graduate students and researchers. That's what the kids who were at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy with me when I was getting my master's had when they had come from overseas to study in the States. I thought that they were H-1B workers, where in fact you're not allowed to displace U.S. workers. But I was wrong. I decided to write our senators and congresswomen, but I did a little bit of research. I wanted to find out why they were hiring the foreigners. First and foremost, the only reason, no taxes. The Europeans were less expensive as employees than the Americans. These businesses have no interest in providing a cultural exchange for these European kids. All they want is cheap labor. Then something else struck me. When we first moved to Camden, I'd go to the local Hannaford grocery store, the only chain grocery in town. And every summer there would be an influx of Russians and Eastern Europeans working the cash registers. But I realized I hadn't seen them for a couple years. So I sought out the manager of the store and said, hey, what gives? How come you used to have them and you don't now? He told me that it used to be that he simply could not fill his jobs that he had for summer. He needs to lay on extra employees because of the summer influx of vacationers. And he couldn't fill those jobs locally as much as he tried. But he had watched employment over the previous fall and decided that, you know what? Maybe I can make it and just hire locally this summer and not have the foreigners come in. So he tried it. Every year since then, he has been able to fill all of his positions locally with teenagers, college students who come from home for summer, and young adults. They are doing the right thing. Jerry asked me to talk about recruiting. You're not going to believe how rudimentary it is. It's word of mouth. And they have a whiteboard. When they have a position open, they write deli assistant needed, must be 18 because you've got to be 18 to work on the slicing machine. They prop the sign outside the front door, and that's it. That's all they have to do to recruit, and they can fill those jobs. Now, I went into the Foreign Service because I love travel. I love going to other places in the world, meeting people, things like Skype and my international quilt lists. I love that I can Skype my friend in Sydney, Australia, that I met online. I still keep up with this even though I'm no longer in the Foreign Service. Now, I truly believe that foreign exchange is absolutely the way to go to show the world who and what we are and that it's a good thing. I have read, and Jerry mentioned earlier, that some of the employees say that they like the foreign workers because they're more responsible. Of course they are. They're older. Remember what it was like when you were 15 or 16? I realize that it's a little bit terrifying, and I'm sure our parents were petrified also, to think that we were the future of America. These teenagers are the future of our country. If we don't give them a chance, who's going to? If they mess up, fine, they mess up. Fire them. There's plenty of other kids standing in line to get those jobs. And I've seen that with my son's best friend who lived out here in Hope, 9 miles from town. There's no public transportation here. It's really hilly. It's too far to ride a bike, and it's too far to ride a bike home at 11 o'clock when you're done with your dishwashing shift. Sometimes he couldn't get rides into town. He got fired. Somebody else got hired. They work, they grow up. Now, when I did my research for today, I looked up the definition of the J visa again, and it said that it is to promote the interchange of knowledge and skills in the fields of education, arts, and science, and return home to utilize the experience and skills required. Can anyone tell me how working the night shift at the Hershey factory, or washing dishes, or changing bed linens in Camden, Maine, meets that goal? It doesn't. Plain and simple. The J visa is being misused and abused. If Congress wants to have a summer work program for foreign students, fine. But can you imagine any senator or congressperson going home to their district to defend a vote in favor of a bill that would take jobs away from their teenagers, college students, and the lowest income level of young adults? No. We need to cultivate, grow, and give our children a chance to become responsible citizens. Looking at it from the perspective of the foreign students, what kind of cultural exchange are they getting? They're seeing the inside of a kitchen washing steamy dishes. And The employers that are not the good ones, there are some good ones out there, and I was glad to hear Jerry's story about the Lithuanian, but some of them are not good. Is this the image of the United States that the State Department wants to project overseas? This project is missing the mark. This is not the way to carry out cultural exchange. We have to remember our country is only as good as we make it. We as adults have to teach our children to become responsible members of society and show them how to do the right thing. The aquatics company that is there with you in the room today, they are doing the right thing. Responsibility begins with us as parents, with our local businesses on Main Street. The employers that are using this program are turning their backs on the teens. They're saying, you're not worth hiring because I can save a buck hiring somebody from outside the United States. They are more interested in saving a few dollars than building a strong community and a strong nation. The State Department and Congress need to put an end to this backdoor use of the J visa to obtain cheap labor. And we need to focus instead on building a strong United States, one teenager at a time. We need to take care of our own first. Cultural exchange is a wonderful thing, and I completely support it, but not this way. To bring things back to where I started, our son Joshua is now 18. In all truth, he was our challenging child, and every parent I've talked to says, oh, I had one like him. Well, last March, he started looking for a job. In May, he was hired at a corner grocery as a cashier at starting minimum wage. The company also has a catering business. He started working full-time. In July, he and his girlfriend rented their own apartment, and they've been paying their bills on time every month. The week before Christmas, the owner of McGonagall Market called Joshua aside, and his immediate thought was, what did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. I know I haven't made a mistake. Instead, she said, Joshua, I noticed how much responsibility you have taken on here at the market. You've learned every job. You can fill in when I need you. When somebody calls in sick or doesn't show up, you're there to help. You deserve to be paid for the responsibility you've taken on. And she gave him a raise of $1 an hour. That's more than 10% raise. It's not much, but it was huge to Joshua. Lainey did the right thing by Joshua, by the community, by our town. Joshua was elated. This year, he asked for my help, and he filed his first federal tax return and got his first refund. This is what we need to be doing for these kids. We need to give them a chance to learn and be responsible citizens. We can set a high bar, and I completely believe that our teenagers will rise to meet the challenge. It's our country, from really big metropolitan areas like DC, where I spent most of my adult life, to small towns like Camden, Hope, Maine. We need to take responsibility for our children, for our future, one kid, one job, and one Main Street at a time. Thank you.
For the studies used in this video and others, please visit www.cis.org.